Hello and welcome to Battle Streams in Middle-earth, and welcome to Damian's hobby vlog number 22. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down there, and welcome to our channel. If you are new here, the point of Battle Streams Middle-earth is to help you clear your backlog of that wonderful pile of opportunity we all have. Every fortnight on this channel, myself and Steve Crow do live streams where we go through an episode of the old DXDini part, Battle Games in Middle-earth, and we paint the model of the week, and we all hang out for a few hours and we paint just for the joy of it, not because we're trying to paint those things for our armies, but to try and help everyone kind of communally come together and just paint for some fun and to help chip away at those backlogs. And it's a lot of fun. So if you are new here, check out in our live section when the last stream was, and you should be able to see hopefully upcoming dates and join on our socials so that you get the updates next one. But as well as doing those live streams, I also try and document my own hobby journey, and that's what this is. This is I think it's my second of the year. I had third of the year. Hobby goals were set out, and then we had the Road to the GT Part 1. So this is very much a part 2. Kind of hobby vlog following on from the last one. So let's do a bit of a recap. At the end of the last hobby vlog, I'd managed to have a fantastic January of painting. There was a slight delay due to my illness for a week. But basically I spent the first, was it 5 weeks of the first 5 weeks of the year, I want to say, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'd say 5 weeks of the year I spent painting troops for my BSIME Gondor armies, this army that I'm only painting up based on the live streams. It's been a lot of fun building it up, and I managed to get loads done. I got some knights done, some rangers done, my mounted Faramir, and some more warriors of Minas Tirith. And what that meant was I was in the position that I needed to be, that I hoped to be, where I could take my BSIME Gondor army to war at the Warhammer World GT. So with that in mind, when I realised I would be able to, I had to pick an army list. So let's just review what I've got. So this is what I had. This is what I had at my disposal. So remember, every one of these models has been painted up purely based on having a week in the magazine, or having a week where I didn't have anything to paint for the magazine, so I painted something for this army. So this army purely exists out of the kind of mantra of the channel to clear the backlog, and we're building it up for years now. I think I painted my first warriors of Minas Tirith. If you don't mind bearing with me, this is exactly the sort of thing I should have prepared in advance, but I reckon relatively easily I'll be able to go into 2021 and find my Faramir. I'm sure I started him there. Faramir was painted in February 2021, and he was followed by some warriors of Minas Tirith in August 2021. So February 2021, so it was nearly 2 years ago that I started painting this project. I painted my Faramir on foot, then some warriors of Minas Tirith, then some Musketeers first. And over the course of the last 2 years, I've now accrued what feels like an army. So I now have Faramir on foot and mounted to lead my army. I also have 8 Rangers of Gondor, 4 of whom have spear. I have 18 warriors of Minas Tirith. I have 4 Knights of Minas Tirith, one of whom has a banner. I also have a banner on foot, but he's very much a dismount for that guy. And then I have 6 Osgiliath veterans, 2 with bow, 2 with spear, and 2 with shield. So it's feeling like an army. So I put all that stuff together. It turns out I've got 352 points of warriors. The GT is 700 points, so I'm clearly not there. When I put Faramir in there, when you take him as horse, as I've modelled him, where's my little Faramir? That's Faramir, converted to have a lance and a shield. When you take him with all his gear, he's 105 points. So that puts me at 457 points, is what I've got for Gondor. So obviously I'm still 250 points off being able to go to the GT. But also, crucially, I'm some heroes down. I have, 8, 26, 30, I've got 36 warriors painted, and Faramir can only lead 15 because he's a hero of valor. So I need enough people to lead another 20 warland slots. So suddenly I wasn't really panicking about it, because I was like, right, I can probably get some more heroes in, and Gondor have got a lot of good heroes, a lot of good options. So he says he looked for it. Did he put it away? There it is. I dug into this bad boy. I dug into Armies of the Lord of the Rings and the Minas Tirith section, and had a play to see what I could do. Now remember, the whole point of this, the whole spirit of this, is it's about battle streams from Middle Earth. So it's not about picking. There is no competitiveness in this whatsoever. I mean, God knows, you just heard my army: Warriors of Minas Tirith, Knights of Minas Tirith, Osgiliath vets. This is not Minas Tirith, to quote David Clubley. It's not top tier Gondor. It's fun, fluffy Gondor. So I'm not going to go in and go, all right, so you want to get Hurin, for example, you know, he's awesome, and so on and so forth. What I need is painted models. Now, Battle Streams has given me some other options. So I've got Faramir, and Faramir has to go in the army. That's the rule. The army started with Faramir on foot. He was the first Gondor model I ever painted. He feels like thematically incredibly close to my heart, so he has to go in. So then who else can do? Well, we start with Aragorn, King Elisar. He's 225 points, which basically gets us there, right? I want to say we're on 450, so that's 680-ish points. And I've done Elisar for battle streams. I'll try, if I remember, I'll try and put some photos up. He's been painted for battle streams, so I've already got him. So I've got Elisar ready to go, so he could slot into the army. So we'd have he's King Elisar, so we can have him. I've only got him on foot, but I reckon I could paint the mounted version up as well. So I had a look at that, but if I'm honest, it doesn't fit for me really. What I want, I still want to have a kind of theme that I really engage with and like. And Faramir here, it's not 4th Age Faramir. I've got Prince of Athelion in the box, but it's not him. This looks like kind of 3rd Age Faramir. He's in the Houses of Healing when Aragorn goes off and so forth, and it just didn't quite work for me. I wasn't really. Aragorn doesn't feel like Minas Tirith to me. He feels like renewed Gondor, as it were. So I passed on that. Over the page, Gandalf the White, 220 points, Bonza, so that gets us there as well. He's almost exactly the same as Aragorn. And again, thanks to the power of BSIME, I've painted him up. So I've done Gandalf, and not only have I done Gandalf, I've actually done 2 Gandalf the Whites for Battle Streams Middle Earth. So again, I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting option. It also, I've got my long-suffering, half-painted Gandalf the White on horse. So there's also a really nice kind of, what's the word? Inspirational kind of idea that, oh, if I did that, I might finally get that model off my progress tray. Okay, so we could have Gandalf the White leading it, and that opens up the idea of painting a little peregrine took, guard of the citadel. I've never painted Gondor Pippin. I've got a few of them knocking about, so that could be done. But kind of for the same reasons as Aragorn, it really fit the theme. It would be Gandalf. When does Gandalf and that Faramir fight together? It's when it's the fleeing from Osgiliath, so that kind of works. So it would be that scene of Gandalf coming and joining up with the retreat from Osgiliath, and so I was like, but if I'm honest, what really got me was, if I'm gonna have that, I want Pippin on Gandalf. I want the plastic one on Gandalf, and I haven't finished painting my current mounted Gandalf on Shadowfax, I'm not. I wasn't going to start another one really and abandon that. And also, if I'm utterly honest, it wasn't fitting what I wanted to do with Minas Tirith. I want this to be quite a kind of a relatively simple army. I didn't suddenly want to bring in an absolute mega caster that I haven't really used and kind of been worried about that. It'd undoubtedly be great in the game, I think, Gandalf the White. Be really, really, really useful for the army, but just wasn't what I was feeling. So I started to, you keep flicking through and you started thinking, oh, well, what am I going to do then? I did have a look at the ranges of Athelion, the Legendary Legion, because I've got, I'm being led by Faramir. Faramir can go on horse in that legion. I've got some rangers, but there's a few things. There's the obvious thing that despite the nerf with Frodo, Sam and Gollum having to be in there, I still don't really think people like playing against them. It's very shooty, and also you can't have knights. I've painted up 3 knights and the mounted banner bearer, and I wanted to use them, and you can't have knights in that legion. I do quite like the idea of doing a range of Athelion list that's fun to play against, and what I mean by that is that it's the Osgiliath, it's the defenders of Osgiliath rather than the rangers of Athelion. So what I'd quite like to do is have kind of you know, 12 warriors of Minas Tirith, 4 of whom have bow, 6 Osgiliath vets, 2 of whom have bow, and then have 4 rangers to go with another 8 warriors of Minas Tirith or something. So, you know, you do have some rangers in there, but it's not this repellent 100% bow limit. It's more that maybe your rangers make up your normal bow limit or something like that. I quite like doing that. I think that would be quite fun with Sam. But again, I wanted to use my knight, so it wasn't for that. So I was a bit perplexed, to be honest. I was getting to the point where I was like, oh, what do I do then? And then the answer came to me like a horn of Gondor blowing across the river. Boromir, Captain of the White Tower. And I flicked across this. I was like, oh, hello, Boromir with the banner and the horse and the lance and the shield, and he comes to 215 points. So he's in the right ballpark. And my good friend Rob Cron, bit of shameless self-promotion here, in issue 12 SPG, he wrote a wonderful article about Boromir. My favourite character article in issue 12 is about Boromir. So I've been reading a lot about Boromir. Kind of while I've been collecting this, and how much Rob loves Boromir and how great he is. And suddenly I started to think about this. I was like, oh, this is cool. If you had Boromir leading it with Faramir, and it could be like the defence of Osgiliath, essentially that could be the army. And suddenly then, because it's not a legendary legion, it can just be the army list. It also means that it doesn't make a lot of sense to have Citadel Guard or Fountain Court, because they'll be defending Minas Tirith, which I don't have. And I could justify Rangers, and I could justify Warriors of Minas Tirith, I could certainly justify Osgiliath Vets, and I could justify Knights. And it all suddenly started to fit together really, really nicely. So the more I kind of got involved in this, the more I liked it. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what I'll do. I'll have the brothers in happier times. One slight downside, I didn't have Boromir. I didn't have Captain of the White Tower. So this is a huge moment in BSIME history. I have bought Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, for my BSIME Gondor army. So this represents the first time I've ever bought. I think it's pretty much the first time I've ever bought a Gondor model. It's certainly the first time I've bought a model for this army. Like, everything I've had in this army has been kind of backlog or from Secret Santas and stuff, which has been awesome. And the whole point has just been like digging through there, going, oh, look at these old models. I was never going to paint them. But this is the first time I've actually bought something because I want it, and I'm so excited. So if I jump into this, I was quite surprised, I don't know about you, to find it's metal. I know he when he returned to range in 2016, he was one of the models that came back when the Middle Earth team took over. He was resin. I'm not sure if he'd been resin before that, I presume so, but he came back as resin. But when he's come back this time in this 3-pack, he's metal. And I mean, that's okay, there's certainly nothing I can do about it, but I think for a big chunky model with a big heavy banner like this, I probably would have preferred him in resin, to be honest. But it is what it is. So I've got him here in lots and lots of little pieces. And yeah, I've bought Boromir, Captain of the White Tower. Now, what's kind of fun about this, in the classic BSIME way, is that the Boromir on foot with flag and the Boromir on foot I already have. It's just the mounted one that I needed. I've picked him up, and I'm going to be painting him up to lead the army. He'll have to lead it, sorry for him. Which is kind of cool. And that was, once I figured that out and we were getting there, I was like, okay, so then you suddenly chuck those points in. It's 15, so it's 30, that's him and Faramir are both Valor. So that's 30, so I still need another hero. And it was a really easy choice, to be honest. I selected Madril. I went for Madril because we had the new plastic Madril from the starter set. He's like Faramir's mate, and it's a cool model, and I thought it really fit in well with the thing. I know that we see him Osgiliath years later. Was it years later? I don't know, in the film timeline. I think it's only a few months later, isn't it? Because I think the timeline's compressed, the idea that they're meant to have just retaken Osgiliath before Boromir goes off to Rivendell, essentially. But the idea that Madril could have been fighting alongside them was fine. So I wrote this army list stuff because, spoilers, you have to submit the army list before this vlog. You have to submit it a few weeks before the GT. And I was all ready to go. And as you saw in the last vlog, I got ill. I got sick. And so I was planning on having, my hope was to finish these by the end of January, which would give me 3 weeks to basically do my heroes. And I was like, that's all right. Or 2.5 weeks. I was like, that'll be all right. And as it turns out, it is currently Wednesday the 8th of February. And the GT is next weekend, the 18th. And I'm going off on the 17th. So I have got 9 evenings before the GT. And what that meant was there ain't no way Madril's getting done. This model, this Boromir Foot Mounted, I am super excited about. I know no one will care about this model. Because it's been out for, come out for Siege of Gondor, it's been out for like the best part of 15 years, if not longer. And everyone's over it. I'm not over it. I've never seen it. You've obviously played against it on the table loads, but I've never picked it up, I've never held it, I've never built it, I've never wanted it. And suddenly I'm like so in love with this, and it's just like what I did with the Last Alliance last time, where I ended up with those High Elf Spearmen or that High Elf Banner Bearer, where suddenly a model that I had no real desire for whatsoever has shot to the top of a painting queue, all because of a Battle Streams project, and I love it, I love it, I love it. But it's a foot and mountain model, a horse, and a hero model twice, with the Banner of Gondor, double-sided, non-embossed. So horrible freehand tree 4 times. Now that would be bad enough, and honestly, if that was all I had to do in 9 days, I'd be like, that's a bit touch and go. But then I've got to do Madril as well, and so right now I was hoping Madril will make it, but already I'm going, no, Madril can't make it. He can't come to the party. There's just no way. I'm not going to be able to get him done. And so that leaves me down a few points and down a hero basically, and thankfully I had the most wonderful solution ready to go. Step up, daddy. Check it out. Here is Denethor painted. So Denethor, it was, prior to Battle Streams, the only Gondor model I'd ever painted in my life. I think I've told this on the streams before. He was painted as a present for a friend, where they really liked John Noble. So I painted up 2. I had 2 of them for some reason. Painted up 2 of them and gave the best one to the friend basically. And so I've had him sitting in a case. He's never been used at all. I was like, I've got a Denethor model ready to go. What am I doing? The retaking of Osgiliath. I've got Faramir and Boromir. It's perfect. So I'm going to slot Denethor in as my leader, because he has to be the leader, and he's also Hero of Valor. So that gets me my my warrior contingent. And so I wrote up my army list, and basically I end up with I've got Denethor, 4 rangers, and 9 warriors of Minas Tirith, one of whom's got a bow. I've then got Boromir, 4 rangers, and 8 warriors of Minas Tirith, one of whom's got a bow. And I've got Faramir and 4 knights, one of whom's got a banner, and 6 Osgiliath veterans. So that's all bang on the money. The downside of swapping out Madril for Denethor was he's 20 points cheaper. So I actually, because I just totaled up on more points for you, didn't I? And I'm quite close. All my warriors in my Gondor army amount to 352 points, but because I've got so many rangers, I'm a bit over the bow limit. And so what actually I found as I fiddled was I was still a bit underneath. I couldn't take everything. I couldn't top out everything because I'd have too many bows. And so what I also need to do is paint this guy. This is one of my warriors of Minas Tirith. You saw me paint 6 of these in January. I've got another 6 to go. And so I had like basically 9 spare points, as I've got another warrior of Minas Tirith with spear and shield who was already undercoated and ready to go. So he needs to be done as well. I mean, if he doesn't get done, I'll play 9 points down. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, he needs to be done. So that's my army. That's what I need to get done before I head off to the GT. 2 Boromirs who need to be complete as of Wednesday, so as of 9 days time, are completely unassembled. Need to be assembled and painted. And this little cheeky chappy here, who, this is the sort of thing that I know he's easy. I could knock him out in an evening tonight. I think these guys take me about an hour and a half, 2 hours each or something. So he can definitely get done, but he's obviously going to be the one who's left till last, right, on Thursday night and really stressing me out. But so we need to get him done. And then Boromir, I'm just going to try and take this as a project where it's a BSIME model. I'm just going to try and remember that. Yes, it's a cool model. Yes, he's going to be the leader. Yes, it's a freehand banner. But it's my Gondor army. It's my BSIME Gondor army. It's not an army to get stressed about. So I'm just going to paint him as well as I can. I've looked ahead a few issues in Battle Games Middle-earth, and there's a Boromir issue coming up, Armoured Boromir. So I'm just going to follow that painting guide for him. I'm happy with how I paint my Knights and Minas Tirith horses. That was quite quick, so I'm going to do that for his horse. And I'm just going to try and enjoy it. As for the banner, I am currently planning on doing a plain cream banner for 4 sides. And if I can get that done by Tuesday or Wednesday night, and he's finished, then Tuesday or Wednesday I might try and do the tree. That's the plan. I am not going to get hung up on the tree. If the worst comes to worst, I will go to the GT with a plain banner and think no worse of it. But there we go. So this is my last little hobby vlog that will inevitably come out after the GT, because I'll have a chance to edit it. But it's going to be just carrying me through this last kind of week and a half leading up to the GT as I try and kind of finish this phase of my BSIME Gondor army, getting one more cheeky Warhammer Minas Tirith and Boromir. And I've got to say, as much as I've not got as much time to do it as I hoped, I am genuinely really excited about this. It feels super cool to be kind of finishing this phase with painting like the big boss man of Gondor, Boromir on his, with his Flagomir as Rob calls him, to lead my army to war. So yeah, I'm excited. I hope I enjoy this. Just going to be focusing on one big hero for the next week and a half, which I'm quite looking forward to. And yeah, it'll be fun. So I will jump in at some point when I made some progress on him and give you a little update. But hopefully after this point, after this kind of nice rambling little vlog, it's going to be a relatively short one because there's not going to be too much to show you this guy. Unless, what I might do is once he's done, I might do a little GT review to let you know how the Gondor boys got on. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's get stuck into this. First things first, let's get him painted. Okay, so brief update time. Here we are at the end of Wednesday night. It's the same day I recorded that clip, and we now have Boromir safely assembled and ready for painting. So nothing special here. This is just a single piece model, just cleaned up. Quite a lot of metal flash, to be honest, to kind of cut off and kind of that horrible metal mould line that you need to scrape away. But he's looking okay. I'll just try and dim the light here to see if the contrast is a bit better. It's always hard with that kind of metal. And then a slightly more complicated job on the mounted version. So it was a multi-part kit. We had the horse, we had 2 separate legs, and then we had the banner arm. As you see, I've done a bit of green stuff in here over the legs just to hide those 2 joins. It wasn't too bad to do. And then I kind of mentioned that I probably would prefer this in resin. This massive heavy piece has only got 2 joins. It's got the arm, and thankfully you can glue it in. You can glue it in here as well to add a second point of contact. But it was still hard to get it to hold in place, and I've ended up doing a kind of green stuff join around here, not just for to fill the gap, but to have more contact points really, to kind of just make that join a little stronger. So there he is. Oh, and the shield's a separate piece as well. That's now on there. So there he is. Pretty happy though. I managed to get 3 contact points with the horse on the base. So he should be pretty stable on that. 2 of them are actually drilled through. I left the bits of, one of them's got an actual circular peg, but I left the bit of metal sprue on the other one because they lined up nicely with 2 of the holes. So he should be pretty stable on the base. Just got to hope that the arm manages to stay on. So there we go. He is cleaned up and assembled, which is where I needed him to be by the end of the night. And I can now spray him in the morning and hopefully start painting tomorrow. So yeah, we're on track. Let's go. Okay, so it's update time. I can't actually remember when I recorded last. I want to say it was like Wednesday or Thursday. It was when I think you haven't seen any paint on these models, but it was when I was starting. So it is now Sunday night, and I'm finished for the night. So it's the end of Sunday night. We've had the stream. I did a bit of painting on, I think on Thursday and Friday, definitely on Friday. And then I managed to get a bit done on our last stream, which was episode 77, I think. So you might have seen me working on these models then in the past. And then I've managed to have a bit of an evening on them tonight. So that's where we are in the schedule. And let's see how we've got on. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy with where we are. So first things first, let's look at our Warhammer Minas Tirith. He is finished. So this guy is completely done. Obviously the base isn't done, but I'm going to do the bases on all three of them together. So completely painted. I'm not going to go through all the colours because it's just exactly the same as all the Warhammer Minas Tirith I've been painting in the past. You can find the full colour scheme for that in previous vlogs, but it's basically following Steve Crow's How to Paint a Warrior of Minas Tirith tutorial from Top Table Gaming. So he's now completely done. I was kind of base coating him and shading him at the same time with the others, and then I just spent the kind of, I don't know what it is, half an hour to kind of do all his highlights. So he's finished and he's off the table. Calais. Boom, done. Which leaves us with Boromir, the leader of our force, the most important model. Obviously finish this guy first, right? There's just something psychological I think about getting rid of the little guy so that I could really see how much time I've got for the main thing. So these two guys then are base coated and shaded. So everything has had a coat of paint and everything has had a wash. I've just done the washes on this tonight, so some of them are still dry. You can see the banner has looks absolutely horrific at the moment. That was a kind of bleach bone base and then covered in, I think with the contrast snake white leather or something, just to get that kind of pale, browny, parchmenty colour down. I've basically done nothing different to this guy than the normal Minas Tirith warriors. So he just had all the normal washes done. Same on the horse, exactly the same colours on this guy, banner, and the horse has just been covered in Cygor brown. The only slight difference is, as we zoom in, his face is finished. So who knows how this is showing up. I haven't gone in and taken photos, but he's looking pretty good. His eyes look pretty good to me, and certainly good enough for the leader of my BSIME army. His hair isn't done. His hair's just been base coated and shaded, but his flesh is done. So eyes are finished and skin is finished, and the same on this guy. And again, I'm pretty pleased with that. I think he's looking alright. So I did that at the same time I was painting the face on the Warrior of Minas Tirith. And I've even managed to paint the eyes on the horse here. If we can catch them in the light, I don't know how well they come out. I was looking pretty good there. So that kind of little, faces are quite time consuming, right? But that little element is done. But that's it. Everything else is just base coated and shaded. And as I said, I've just finished painting for Sunday night. So we're going off to GT on Friday, which means I've got 4 evenings, and I know that we are out on Wednesday night. So I've basically now got 3 evenings, and no guarantee of how much painting I'll do it on any of those, but the potential for 3 evenings to get these guys done. So who knows what we're going to do. I'm relatively confident in that, if I'm brutally honest. I think I can get something done for a BSIME model. What's quite interesting about Boromir, having spent some time with the model, is that it's not too detailed. It's basically a Warrior of Minas Tirith. We have the horn bonus, we have the addition of the kind of stepped belt, and one really frustrating thing is his scabbard with all this cross detail on it, which is just crying out to being an annoying extra thing to paint. Obviously we got the banner, but as I think I've said in the past, at this stage I think I'm going to the GT with a plain banner. But that's the kind of that's kind of where we are. So I'm not too worried, if that makes sense, about painting him. So I think what I'm going to do is spend my first evening just working on Boromir's. Whenever I'm painting a mounted model, I always try and paint the rider first, because I kind of think as you're holding it, you end up touching the horse a bit, and sometimes the paint from the rider gets on the horse in a way that the paint from the horse doesn't get on the rider. So I'm going to start with Boromir, spend like an evening tomorrow trying to bring him on as much as possible. Then on my second evening, I'm going to try and do the horse, and kind of blitz the horse in an evening. And then on my final evening, hopefully, if all's gone to plan, I'll have like just one last evening to kind of just add a few more highlights and really make him pop, and then do the base rooms. And that's it. So I'm feeling pretty good, but it still requires a lot of painting. So I kind of just need this week to go really well and nothing terrible to happen in the evenings. So there's not going to be much more interesting stuff to show you. So my hope is that the next clip you see will be Thursday night, when these 3 models are all completely finished and ready to go to the GT. So that's what we're hoping for. But yeah, pretty happy with how I'm going so far, and fingers crossed the next 4 days go well as well. Wish me luck. Okay, and it's update time. So it is Friday the, what's the day, is it the 10th or something? No, Friday the 17th of February. It is the morning of the GT, or the morning I'm going to the GT, I should say. GT's tomorrow on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm finished, and this is it. This is where we got to. So firstly, Jeff, the Minas Tirith warrior, who you did see finished, painted, has now had his static grass added to him and his base rim done, so he's completely finished. Boom, solid work, Jeff. And then we get to Boromir. So if we start with the mounted version, and here it is, and first things first, let's deal with the awful banner in the room. I did do the tree. I think as last time I spoke to you, I said I suspected I wouldn't do the tree. I just ran out of time for it. I'm actually quite happy with the colour of cream. I obviously plan at some point in the future to go and do the tree, if I'm honest, but for a kind of basic kind of cream banner, I quite like it. It's mainly kind of Baneblade Brown and Rakarth Flesh. But the Boromir himself, here he is. And I have to say, I think I'm a bit disappointed. So he's, I think the last time I saw you, I said I was going to have those 3 evenings, and I did that. So I had an evening on Boromir, then an evening on the horse, and then an evening on Boromir. I think his face is all right, if we go and have a look. It's not too bad. It's come out all right. Not bad for a BSIME speed army. The biggest disappointment, to be honest, is the horse. Anyone who's been following these vlogs will know that last time I did my Minas Tirith Knights, I was really happy with how the horses looked, and I just replicated that, and it looks awful. It just looks like a fairly badly painted horse to me. I don't know quite what's done it. It's a bit too shiny. I'm not quite sure why he's shiny when it's the same colour scheme. So that's a bit annoying, but yeah, he'll do. He's done. And then the rest of Boromir, he's all right. He's not too bad. The horn, there's some annoying details that when you're trying to speed paint something, you have to pick out, like the horn of Gondor in there, and this crazy scabbard he's got, which I did still try and do. I basically did 1 extra layer on his robes than the normal Warriors of Minas Tirith get. I did like an extra layer of shading. So after the Dawnstone highlight, I went in with Corvus Black and kind of knocked it back a bit. The armour's slightly more edge highlighted than normal, as befits a hero. But he's alright, he'll do. But I do think, I'm hoping to be taking this guy to the Teams event, which is in May. So I do kind of think maybe the week, we'll have to see, who knows if this ever happens, but maybe the week before I might get this guy out and try and spend another couple of evenings on him and tidy him up. But he'll do for the GT. And then here we have the one on foot, which I'm going to say is slightly more successful, possibly because he doesn't have a horse, but banner's in exactly the same state. Face, again, pretty pleased with. Seems to have come out quite well. And then every bit of this guy just seemed to work a bit better than the mounted version for some reason. There's some stuff on the mounted version that I got to say I didn't like. I know I did some rough green stuff around here, but this whole arm area I found quite kind of confusing about what it was. Now, as I said, that could be me, but I just didn't really get on with the pose a lot. I thought the detail on the shoulder armour wasn't that great, and yeah, I just wasn't that keen on the model, to be honest. So maybe that's kind of my feelings of it. Whereas this one seemed much better. Just seems like a much sharper sculpt to me, or something. So I definitely enjoyed working on this one more, again, potentially because of the lack of horse. He's had exactly the same kind of levels and layers done as the mounted version. Again, he's not gonna win any awards or anything. I mean, under no illusions about that. But he'll do, and hopefully, of course, I won't have to use this model. But there we go. Real BSIME job, that kind of properly speed painting him and genuinely trying to convince myself that it doesn't matter, despite the fact it's Boromir. It doesn't matter because he's just leading my BSIME army, and I kind of relaxed into that after a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with them, and they'll certainly do to be a leader for the GT. And so what I thought I'd do before I head off is show you my armies. Okay, so here are my armies, and of course, before we actually have a good look at them, surprise, there's 2, and there's a display board. So, of course, we are going to the GT, so you have to take a good and evil army. So I haven't really talked about that, but I'll show you what my evil army as well. As ever for me with the GT armies, I try and make it thematically opposed as much as I can. And then also there's a display board. Now, before anyone gets furious they've missed out on shed content, fear not, this is not a new display board. This is actually a display board I made for the GT in 2019, when I took the army of Gothmog against the Return of the King Legendary Legion. So it was like the 3 hunters and a bunch of ghosts, I believe. And so I made this little display board up then, just for the fun of it, as it were. And since then, it's sat in a cupboard, doing nothing. And I just thought, hang on, this is, whilst my army's kind of themed more around Osgiliath than Minas Tirith, it certainly fits. It would just be a nice way to display them both over the course of the weekend. And so I dug it out. It's just been sitting in a cupboard for years doing nothing. I thought, why not? Let's get a bit more use out of it. But I know what you're thinking. Gimli's quote down the front, "There's plenty for the both of us, may the best dwarf win," isn't particularly appropriate when it's no longer the army of the dead jumping off the docks of Harland. So, as ever, I spoke to my dear wife, and we got this. "By the blood of our people are your lands kept safe," which was about the only quote I could find to kind of sum up this slightly fictional conflict, because obviously what I've got basically is Denethor, Boromir and Faramir defending Gondor, essentially, against Mordor. And so you never really see that except with the city of Gileath has been reclaimed for Gondor and all that sort of stuff, and this clearly is not Gileath and clearly in the middle of the battle. So I decided to go for that one. I thought that was quite cool. So thanks to Emma for knocking it out of the park and just recreating this new banner that has kind of given my my board a repurpose. So let's go and have a look. So let's first dive into the Gondor army that we've been following. So who have we got? So we've got our original Faramir, our first Gondor model, down here on foot, and our Faramir conversion is at the back, leading his knights along there. We also have our brand new Boromir model, who's just been finished. He's facing off against Gothmog. Spoilers for the evil army. And all around here, I've just got a bunch of Warriors of Minas Tirith. There's the banner bearer from very, very early on. Almost cool Osgiliath vets are down the front. Fight 5 Osgiliath vets if they're in range of Boromir and Faramir, I think it is. So the banner and Faramir, that'd be pretty cool. My rangers down the back, more warriors in there. And then up defending the city, we do have Denethor. We do have shady looking Denethor with his own little guard of Warriors of Minas Tirith, and there's our Boromir dismount there, which is cool. And then to my evil army, so again, I always try and make sure they're thematically opposed, and I had no time to paint anything for it, so it became a pretty easy kind of army for me of doing the army of Gothmog. Now obviously I know Gothmog leads the assault of Minas Tirith after Boromir is dead, but it doesn't seem beyond the realms of possibility to me that he could have led an earlier attack. So I'm comfortable enough with this. So what have we got? We have Gothmog himself. I haven't had a chance to get a new one painted, so it's the old Gothmog, and I've got my little old BSIME Gothmog over there. He's also got Gurits with him. That's the other hero for this force. Love that model. It's cool rules. There's a Mordor troll in the army, which is cool. There's a Morannon orc with banner. And we've got one of the most fun parts of this army, or this legion, which is the Mordor Troll catapult, which would be cool. And then we have, I think it's just 23 Morannon orcs, kind of half with spear and shield and half with shield, to make a little battle line. Just fill it in that. And I believe, I haven't actually checked, but this is almost certainly the exact same army I took on this board in 2019. Because it's an army that kind of writes itself. As long as you want the Mordor troll, which I want for the fun of it, you got to have a big troll in there. You put Gothmog in. Gurits is the best hero. You put the catapult in. You put a banner in. You put the troll in, and then you fill it up with orcs. And this is the kind of points level you get to. So I imagine this is exactly the same evil army, just facing off against some new good opponents. So there we go. That's what I've got. It's very cool. It's awesome actually seeing having a BSIME Gondor army for the first time, having a real army laid out, a 700 point army I can kind of take, that only exists because of battle streams, only exists because of the kind of clearing the backlog stuff we've been doing, and I can't wait to see what it gets up to this weekend. So I am now going to put all of this stuff into the cases and head off to the GT, and then I will come back after the GT, after the weekend, with some form of debrief, and I'll see you there. Well, I'm back. Actually, I'm going to caveat that I've been back for a very long time. it's 6 weeks later. I have fallen well behind on my vlogging. That clip I showed you of Boromir, I think on Thursday night, was it? Thursday night before the GT. Yeah, it's 6 weeks after that. Went to the GT and just have not found the time to do it. I am way behind on my vlogging, so yeah, I'm currently working on 4 separate vlogs and have finally found the time to catch up. So I will now, as promised, give you a kind of breakdown of how the BSIME Gondor army and my army of Gothmog got on at the GT. But please bear in mind that it is yeah, 6 weeks later. So if I get some things wrong here, if I forget names or scenarios or anything like that, it's likely to happen, and I apologise. And if I get victory conditions or VPs wrong, it's not because we played them wrong, it's because I'm misremembering them. So yeah, I've got my phone here to kind of help me. I use the Photos app to kind of, hopefully it's got a few clues in here. But yeah, I will just run through my army quickly. I think I've done it on a previous clip, but just in case, it's essentially the leader is Denethor. I also have Boromir on horse with the banner, and Faramir with lance and shield and horse. And then I've got my BSIME Gondor army really. So 3 knights, a knight with a banner, 8 rangers, 4 of whom had spears, 6 Osgiliath veterans, and I think the rest is Minas Tirith warriors. I think that's about it. Probably about 18 Minas Tirith warriors or whatever, something like that. So yeah, that was my army, and then my evil army was the army of Gothmog Legendary Legion. So it was Gothmog and Gurits for my 2 heroes, and then I took a catapult, a Mordor troll, and the rest was Moran and Orcs. I think I had about 23 Moran and Orcs or something like that. So yeah, right. Finished Boromir, headed off to Nottingham on Friday. I think I was able to get up quite early actually, and I met up with a couple of people. I think Dale and Jack, and we went around the exhibition, which was always nice. Took the pressure off the kind of drive through rush hour and all that, and yeah, had a nice wander around the exhibition, which was super cool. And saw the new Osgiliath exhibition, or diorama, and obviously at the time of recording the new scenery is just coming out, but at the time it was still a mysterious thing, so it was really good to see that in the flesh. And go and see that if you get a chance. I might, if I remember when I'm editing this, flick up a few pictures that I took of it, but it's just incredible. It's absolutely amazing. It's at least 4x4 I reckon, and it's in the middle of the room. First time you can walk all the way around the Middle Earth one, which is really cool. Certainly, you know, I like the Pelennor one, I like the Edoras one they've done, but it's the best Middle Earth display they've done, so check it out if you can. That was good fun. And then we went for dinner with some a bunch of good pals, about 10 of us I think had dinner in the pub. I was just chilling out with people, it was really nice. Catching up with a few people I hadn't seen in a while. And then, yeah, headed to bed and off to war the next day for the GT. And my first game was against Aaron Mundin. I was delighted to see. I know a lot about how lovely the Mundin brothers are, but I haven't been able to play any of them before. So it was great to get a game against Aaron. And we drew. I think I saw his army before the scenario, possibly, I can't remember. But he had an Ent army, which I think at that point, look at my photos, I think it's Treebeard, Quickbeam and 3 other Ents. And I was already a bit worried, because I've only got Gothmog's my only model who can strike in the army to get above their fight, and right there I've got a catapult. And the scenario's Clash by Moonlight, which destroyed the point of my catapult. And I was like, oh brilliant, okay, so now I'm in real trouble. So my catapult, because it's a siege engine, it kind of ignores the rule, the normal Clash by Moonlight rule, but it still only hits on a 6. So I was firing that. Basically I've got these 5 Ents wandering towards me, and I'm just hoping I get a couple of 6s. I can't quite remember, I think I might have been able to take down 1 with a catapult. I feel like I got 1 hit on it. In this one we're trying to kill heroes, aren't we? Yeah, we're trying to kill heroes and keep your own heroes alive. And I think I managed to get a direct hit on Quickbeam, who he then put onto another end, or maybe vice versa. He might put it into Quickbeam because Quickbeam had the fate and the might to guarantee that he passed it. But anyway, I got hit, but I think that was about it for the catapult. And then the Ents basically clashed, and I think it went all right. I think I must have won some strike-offs. I was basically putting Gothmog onto the Ents that didn't have might, so they couldn't strike, and kind of was able to maybe chop through two. I feel like I did a strike and a heroic, maybe Gothmog and Gurits were on one, and did a strike and a heroic combat onto another one possibly, and got rid of two. But I was out of might. The catapult crew were sort of engaged, or the Ents were too close, so we couldn't fire, and I then had no way of of getting higher fight value than them. I feel like there were some kind of lucky results where like a couple of orcs won against an Ent, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to get some chances here, but didn't do anything. And Treebeard eventually ran out of might. I feel like Treebeard might have fluffed his lines a couple of times, and Treebeard ran out of might, which gave me an opportunity to basically keep him where I could just feed him orcs or whatever while I killed the others. And I think I was just concentrating on Quick Beam, and I eventually got rid of Quick Beam, but I feel like I had to get rid of him with the lower fight value. It was one of those agonising choices where it's like, I've got to kill him because he's a hero and that'll swing the game, but by doing it, I had to commit my hero. Like Gurits with his two-handed side was really good at kind of killing him, and Gothmog obviously is my leader. But if I'm committing them, there's a real risk that I'll then lose my heroes essentially. But I had to go for Quick Beam, and got him eventually by having lower fight value, but Aaron not rolling a 6, and then he continued to smash my army up. And I think I'd had to kill Quick Beam to break him as well, because he had Merry and Pippin. I think that's how that works. You've got 7 models, so it's breakpoint, so I need to kill 4. So yeah, that would be it. That would make sense. And Merry and Pippin were safe, so I'd have to kill the other. I'd have to kill Quick Beam and 4 to break him. And I did, and got that last one. And I feel like Treebeard survived. Treebeard was alive, I think. And I think I've got a photo, I don't know, of the endpoints, which I'll put up. Yeah, there we go. That's what I remember. That we had by the end of the game, I had 4 models left. I had Gothmog, Gurits, my Siege Engineer Captain, and an Orc, and hopefully you can see that on the screen at the moment. But thankfully, 3 of those models were my 3 heroes, so I hadn't lost any heroes. And you can see there that the Engineer Captain is staying within 6 of the catapult, and then Gothmog and Gurits are within 6 of him, so that Gothmog's Standfast affects the heroes, which is one of his Legion rules, and they were just staying away from Treebeard basically. And yeah, managed to do that. So in the end, I had 4 models left. Not very good, but I managed to win by a comfortable VP margin. I think I can't remember what it was. I'm not sure if it's 12-0, but I'd killed one of his heroes, broken him. We were both broken actually. That can't be. There's no way it's 12-0. And he hadn't killed any of my heroes. So yeah, I managed to win. But it was a brilliant game. I absolutely loved it. Aaron was lovely. Really great opponent, really great first game. Felt like a Throne of Skulls game, not like a GT game, which was just great. Really, really relaxed. Really great opponent. We had a lot of laughs. I'd had a lot of fun with Ents in kind of a couple of years back, so it was nice reminiscing about that sort of stuff. And yeah, my catapult, my secret weapon, just did nothing, which was a bit depressing. But fair enough. So yeah, that was a great, cracking first game. After that, we have lunch. And yeah, the painting competition. I don't think I put anything in this time. I didn't have anything particularly good with me, and you know, it was all backlog of BSIME stuff, so I didn't enter that. And for my second game, I was drawn against Louis Mundin. Oh yes, Ara's brother, which was awesome because I got the chance to, or he got the chance to exact some Mundin-based revenge, which I thought was really cool. And obviously for that second game, I'm using my BSIME Gondor army. Which was great, so I deployed against it, and what should I find levelled against me but essentially my evil army, so the army of Gothmog, and that kind of put the fear of God into me, if I'm honest, because I was like, it's a really good matchup against men, the army of Gothmog, and he had the catapult. Now the only difference he had was that he had another hero, I want to say it was Goroth, I think it was, and he didn't have the troll. So he had the catapult and he had Gothmog and Gurits, but I think he had Goroth. Or maybe he didn't have Gurits, do you know what? I think he might have had Goroth and Zagdush, actually. I think he had those 2, possibly. But anyway, other than that, it was pretty similar. And I was worried about it. I was certainly worried about when the lines met and all the hatred and the time of the Orcas come and all that, what that would do. As well as the fact that, he's got a catapult, so you've got to spread your army out. But it was retrieval, so the diagonal line, we've got our flags in the each other's corner, and I deployed high up because I knew that even though I had the bows, he would win the shooting war with the catapult, and so I'd have to go for his and be aggressive. And I managed to get lucky early on where I think he'd deployed in a sort of curve around his side, and I was able to jump on this warband, one of the Orcs warbands, and I got Boromir in there, and I just committed Boromir fully. It was that first game of realising, hang on, Denethor's my leader, Boromir's expendable, for lack of a better word. And so I just held Boromir and went really aggressive with him, like a couple of early heroic combats and stuff, to get him to chop through 4 Orcs a turn, and I think that went pretty well. And I was able, by doing that, I was able to kind of get the jump on him, and kind of take out a warband of Orcs fairly well, fairly quickly, and swing the numbers. And I feel like that kind of balanced the catapult kills that he was putting on me. Meanwhile, Faramir, if you imagine what I'm trying to look like, there's a diagonal line here and retrieval, and our flags are here. So Boromir's kind of come up here to attack these guys, and Faramir and the knights are kind of going around here, trying to make a bid for the enemy flag, and that was going really well. Then Gothmog got into them somehow, and Gothmog, I think Gothmog got onto Faramir, and there was a kind of heroic strike roll off, and Faramir lost and got chopped up. So Faramir didn't do so great, and my kind of knights out here, which have been doing quite well and encroaching on the catapult, albeit with a troll to deal with, suddenly got wiped out basically, and so that the flanking assault failed. But the fight in the middle had kind of gone my way, and I'd committed loads of guys and kind of trapped the Orcs in the middle, so I knew that he wasn't getting to my flag. But still, even though he wasn't getting to my flag and the field was going alright, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win, because you have to get the relic. You can wound the enemy leader and it's broken. And again, I really can't remember, but I feel like maybe I broke him. I don't think I got Gothmog. I think Gothmog was able to kind of escape because I didn't have the tools to deal with Gothmog really. But in the pretty much the final turn, Boromir really came through for me and charged into a guy, heroic combated off him into the relic, so got the relic or picked it up, and then maybe we had one more turn where he was able to move it. I can't quite remember. But yeah, Boromir did amazing Boromir things in the last round, and I was able to snatch the win, which is really cool, and I was really chuffed with that. And again, I've got to say, to the family Mundin, Louis was just the loveliest, absolutely lovely. You know, Aaron had been a cracking start, and Louis was just a dream of an opponent again. Once again, you're 2 rounds into the GT, but it just felt like throwing skulls again. Like it was a laugh. It was fun. It was chilled out. It was relaxed. And he was super lovely, and yeah, it was nice to play him and nice to get a game against him and a second win. And of course, then there's 3 Mundin brothers. There's Aaron, Louis, and Jacob, and they're all kind of gathering after every game. And we were just dreaming and hoping that I'd play Jacob in the 3rd one to see if I could play all 3 of them. But alas, it didn't happen. And instead, I played Luke Hilda, who I didn't know, and he had brought. I think I was on like table 11 or something, and I was already going to go, what the hell am I doing up here? This was meant to be fun and light-hearted. I wasn't meant to win a couple of games with this. And I played Luke, and he brought Assault on Lothlorien, and so as is often the case in these things, you kind of go, oh no. I know a lot of people say it's not as bad as people think, but I think if you're going to a competitive tournament and plan on being competitive, you've got to deal with it, you've got to plan to play it. But I wasn't doing that at all. I was just going to have a laugh, and so getting drawn against one of the most powerful lists in the game, I was a bit kind of like, oh well, that's I think I don't mind admitting. I was like, oh, that's a bit annoying. That's a bit of a shame. But we played Command the Battlefield, which is the Maelstrom deployment, and as soon as that came, I was like, oh, this is interesting here. You never know how it's going to go, but there's a chance here because you can break up the army, and if you can break it up, you might have a chance. And so that was a kind of tick, and it's not a kind of auto lose scenario, as it were. I don't think there are auto lose scenarios, but probably extremely likely auto lose scenario. And I've got to say as well, Luke was just lovely. He was just a lovely bloke who backs up everything I've always said, that it's not it's not armies that are mean, it's people that are mean. You know, it's like you can take a competitive army, a fiercely competitive army, and still be lovely and still give your opponent a really, really lovely game, or you can take a really crap army and give your opponent a horrible game. And Luke was very much in the former of those, so he was using a very competitive list, but was just lovely. It was just really, really nice bloke to play, and we had a really good time with it. And the Maelstrom went, I'm going to say it went pretty well to me to begin with, and then got better, where I'd taken a bit of a punt. I can't remember who deployed where. I think probably his guys came on first, and he had a Warg Rider warband that I think was led by Musgur, is that his name, the Orc Shaman, who was his leader. And so when I brought Boromir's warband on, I think it was, I put them on behind them. I was like, right, that's the leader, so I can guarantee points. I didn't think I had a hope at Command the Battlefield. Really, I think that's worth saying actually, because his numbers were so much bigger than mine. But I still thought, hang on, I can get some VPs here and maybe put some pressure on. So I went to try and ambush that warband. And again, if this is our table, these are come on the side here, and then up here in the top corner are all the scary bits of the list. The spiders, the bat swarm, Druzag, all those kind of things, all the tricks. And then this was Boromir and Faramir were here, and down here Denethor came on, and I feel like I got Boromir Denethor on there. You know, he'd rolled that dice, or maybe his warband had come on first, or maybe Luke had put him on there. I can't remember. And then one warband of goblins came on there. And I'm pretty sure Luke did that. I'm pretty sure Luke brought on that warband of goblins with a shaman, and that I was thinking that's where I would have put them. It's like that was great, because I was like, hang on, that's a warband against a warband. I'll take that. And then one of his warbands of goblins, I think just with a shaman, didn't come on at the start. And we were like, okay, great. So then early on, I kind of bet big, and I moved up all along this flank. There was a kind of ruin here that stopped a lot of the goblins that were here kind of getting towards Boromir's warband. And I just bet big. I think there was one turn where I was like, well, I'm going to push up forwards and count on getting the heroic move next turn. You know that thing where you count on moving twice? And it kind of paid off. And I just charged headlong into all the scary stuff. Kind of very, very no guts, no glory style. And it went pretty well. And it was basically Boromir, Faramir and all the knights against all his spiders and Musgur. And I think I put Boromir onto Musgur to really try and do the deed, but I think he called a heroic defence for a few turns, which was frustrating, as heroic defence should be, and held me up. But I did get through him and I did kill him. And then by that point, the rest of Boromir and Faramir's warband had come up, and I've got to say, the Osgiliath veterans are amazing. The fight 5 of the Osgiliath vets when they were next to Boromir or Faramir, or who it was, or next to the banner, was just amazing, and they were beating the spiders. So the fight 4 spiders were going down to Osgiliath vets. Now I know, before anyone starts raging in the comments, I know Citadel Guard or Fountain Court Guard would have been exactly the same and would have been better, but for me, my 6 little Osgiliath vets from Scott Newman with doing the Lord's good work in that game, and I was just so proud of each and every one of them. So that was really cool. And I managed to basically clear out all the filthy stuff. I just about managed to survive the bat swarm by like tying it up with a knight a few turns and then eventually knocking it down. Even I think a knight killed it, because with 4 wounds and whatever it is, defense 2, a kind of a knight when it knocks it down, I think is like wounding it on 3s, and you get 4 dice, whatever. And I think I was able to kill that after a couple of turns. And so I'd cleared out over here, and this other warband of goblins still hadn't come on. Poor Luke, I can't remember how many it was, but at least 5 turns, 6 turns or something, he kept rolling 1s for this warband. And then, so I've kind of won this corner, and then over here Denethor has kind of won this corner against the goblins. So if you remember, we're going for quarters. So this one's kind of in contention as I'm killing stuff, but there's a lot of goblins in it. I've got this one, Luke's got this one up here, and then I've got this one because I've just got a few more Gondor models. And it was one of those games where I was really worried about as the time starts running out. You have to do that thing where you have to really, really count. Command the Battlefield is one of those things where you have to really, really count when you've got where the quarters are, and you're like, okay, so if I have 2 guys here and he's got 1 guy there and I kill him, I actually only need 1 guy here because then I've already got double or whatever it is. And it was just that last few turns where you're like kind of just making sure that you're trying to make sure you've got the right numbers in the right places. And when he eventually did roll for his goblins, I think he rolled a 2, which is north or south. And he's a shaman, so he had 1 might, and so I think he chose not to pick it. So I just put him up here in the quarter where he already had all the goblins, and I think that was maybe 3 turns from the end or something. And so it was just a dream result for me, where I was able to put these 12 goblins in a quarter he already had, knowing they'd have no impact on the battle. So really, really bad luck from Luke with those rolls there. As I said, I think 5 ones I think he got for that warband, which is just astonishing. But as it turned out, then I'd killed his leader. I don't think I did break him, but I managed to get. I think I got, is it 2 per quarter? But I got 2 for this one, 2 for this one, and maybe 1 for this one for having more or whatever it was. But I got a win, and I was just delighted. I was just over the moon that not only was my was the kind of crappy BSIME Gondor against one of the most powerful lists in the game, but it was one of those wonderful things. It's like you shouldn't give up. There's no auto lose games. You command the battlefield against the Sultan Lothlorien with kind of all the Minas Tirith plastics basically, and I got a win. And sometimes those things do go that way. So keep the faith, whatever. But it was another great game. It was played in really good spirits. Very nice to meet Luke, and we had a great end to the first day. So full props to him. So that was cool. And then we that was the end of the first day. It was brilliant. I had a joyous first day where I was like, well, this has been brilliant. I played 3 lovely people, had 3 wonderful games, and somehow I'd won all 3. And I was like, the hell is going on? Just makes no sense. And clearly, as anyone who knows me at this point in my gaming career, and anyone who listens to these vlogs will know, I wasn't going to win. Of course I wasn't. I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't hoping to win. But I haven't been to I did well at teams, but teams is a bit different because you're not playing for yourself. But I can't remember the last time I went 3-0 at a competitive event. I've done it at Throne of Skulls, and everything's a bit more light-hearted. But I can't remember the last time I went to, say, the GT or Ardacon and won all my games on the first day. It's been years and years and years since that's happened. So you can't help but be a little kind of, I'm in a pretty good position here. So yeah, and 2 of the games with the Gondor had already been played, so I felt like I had my stronger army to come next, which was kind of nuts. So it was bizarre. But we then went out, and I went out because my good friend Barney Menzies was who runs one of the owners of Seventh City Collectibles was leaving. He was going travelling for 6 months. So a bunch of us, which I kind of think of almost as the old crew of the GBHL, all went out. There was about 20 of us who went out for dinner, which was just amazing. I saw some people that I haven't seen since before lockdown, which was nuts, and just kind of a whole bunch of my really, really, really good friends from this community all went out to dinner together and hung out. And then after that we went and had like beers, went to a few pubs and bars in Nottingham until the early hours, and then the wonderful Mr. Dan Huckfeld gave me a lift home back to the hotel, which is just awesome. We just had the best night. It was just lovely. Really, really good fun, seeing wonderful human beings and hanging out together, which was just lovely. So then, back home and up on Sunday. Ready and wearing for day 2. Could I win the GT? Dare to dream. In game 4, I played Matthew Hill, who I think I'd met before, but I don't think we'd played before. And we played Capture and Control. There was also it's worth noting, I was playing a bunch of scenarios, like the newer scenarios, I would say. Like even, like Retrieval, Clash by Moonlight, Command the Battlefield, Capture and Control. These aren't the ones from the 6 from the Hobbit era. They're the ones that have been kind of patched on. And so they were all scenarios that I hadn't played a lot, relatively speaking, for sure. Like, I did all my competitive gaming sort of 2011 to 2015, really. So that's when I was playing loads and loads of events, and those were using those 6 core scenarios. So it was quite fun to be playing scenarios that I don't play a lot. So Capture and Control, and he had it was a really cool army. It was what would it be? A Champions of Erebor and Lake Town Alliance, I want to say. He had Bard and the kids and a bunch of Lake Town guys, but not too many. I want to say like 10 or 20 with Alfred. And then he had Biffa, Thorin on goat, and Dwalin on goat, and Dane on pig. So when you look at it, he didn't have many numbers, but his leader was Bard, and what he had was a terrifying assault force in Thorin. He had like Dane on pig, Thorin on goat, Dwalin on goat, who he could just chuck at you, and they weren't worth anything to him. They weren't worth his leader. And so, and again, I was using my evil army. So once again, I was kind of thinking, this is awful, because now what I've got to do is somehow, I've only got the one strike again. And he had supercharged Bard, thanks to Alfred, who ended up with like, I don't know, 4 or 5 might. And basically the 3 dwarf heroes were coming down here, and the Lake Towners were coming down here, and I bet on the Lake Towners. I kind of pushed for the Lake Towners to try and get the leader VPs, essentially. And Bard had a really good first combat where he charged it. He suddenly could see what he was going to do with Bard. Like, he charged in, slaughtered a bunch of guys, and then legged it with him. And rather than going on to another 2, because he had so much might, he'd retreat, and then he'd try it again. And I fired a rock on his head, because it was one of those kind of crazy moments where I think did it dismount? I don't think it did dismount. I can't remember. It might have dismounted Gothmog. I can't remember what happened. But there was a bunch of fights, and I just chucked a rock into the middle of it to dismount Bard, because I thought whatever happens to my army, dismounting Bard is more valuable. So it was that slightly manic thinking, but it worked, and I got the direct hit. So I don't think I wounded Bard, but I got him off his horse and got him prone, which was the main thing. So suddenly he's not nearly as terrifying heroic combating. Had a bit of good luck there, and was basically trying to somehow stem the tide of these 3 heroes coming round here, mainly using the catapult as a bit of a threat. And it was clearly going Matt's way. Like, there's no doubt about it. I just didn't have the hero stop him. And I basically put all my eggs in one massive basket, where, I want to get this right, I chucked, I want to say Gothmog, Gurits, and a troll. I managed to get them all on Thorin, and Thorin with Orcrist, and called the Heroic Strike, and bet on, and this was my leader, I was putting him in, it was like, I was all in, but I was just betting on winning it, and then getting the 1 or the 2 for the roll-off, because that was all I had, and it came off. I can't remember if, I don't think it went to roll-off. I think Thorin fluffed his lines, he didn't get, we were both fight 10 or whatever, but Thorin didn't get a 6. And so, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, right. So I killed Thorin, and then I can't remember who went on who, but I feel like Gothmog and Gurits went on to Bard, and the Troll, who I'd already charged into one, I'd left the gap for them to come into, and the Troll went on to Dwalin. And obviously at a point where they weren't striking, or they were out of might, so they couldn't strike, and then I killed Bard as well, so I took him out and he was the leader. I fluffed my lines against Dwalin, I remember that. I didn't kill Dwalin, so for this beautiful moment it looked like I was going to kill Bard, Thorin and Dwalin in the same combat, and I didn't, which was fair enough. I was like, okay, do you know what, I'll take that. And I think it was that even though I had the fight value with the Troll, I think I just didn't get the 6 and Dwalin did, but the Troll survived, crucially. But that was a huge swing, because then I'd killed his leader and I'd killed another one of his fighty heroes, and all my stuff had survived. And then I want to say I did kill Dwalin eventually with that, because Dwalin was then out of might, so the Troll's fight was always kind of winning it, and I think I killed him another couple of turns later. But that had been absolutely huge, and allowed me then to use my heroes to kind of punch through a bit in the middle. And I want to say if there's 5, I can't remember exactly how the VPs work on this, but it was something like Matt had 2 of them up here maybe, I had 1 down here. Did I have that one? I think, yeah, I did get this one as well. I was able to fight back through and get this one, so that was even. Then maybe we were both broken. He might have killed Gothmog, but it was even. I know that it turned on the centre objective, and it was the last turn, and I was thinking, I can't win this because the guy's going to be in a fight. And I realised it was important, like, you know, this won't surprise a lot of people because they'll play the game more than me, but I was getting it confused with supplies. I just want to read the rules here. Destroy the supplies, where when you want to destroy a supply, there is a stipulation that in the end phase, the model must have not used magic powers, not used a missile weapon, not been involved in a fight, or not been under the effects of paralysed and all that sort of stuff. And I was thinking it was that until I went back and looked at it, and when you control objectives, it's just if during the end phase one of your models are in base contact with an objective, then it comes under your control. So there's no stipulation in capture and control about them not having to be able to do anything. And so suddenly I was like, I've got it then. And so I was able to get Gothmog onto the objective, and you know the Lake Tanner was there as well, but I then knew it didn't matter what happened. You know, it wasn't one of those things where he's in a fight so he can't then turn it. It might have been Guritz actually. So then at the end of it, at the end of that turn, we both had models touching that objective, so it flipped back to neutral, and that's what won it for me. Whatever the points were, I think that's what turned it from a draw to a win for me. It would have been a draw if that didn't happen. Whatever the VPs are for that. Maybe he broke me and I killed his leader and they were both worth 1 in that scenario, I can't remember. But it would have been a draw, but because I was able to flip that one, I got a win. So it was an amazing game. Matt was lovely, really great opponent. Really interesting list to fight against. I thought it was quite a well thought out list, to be honest. And that kind of, when you look at it, it goes, oh, low numbers, break the Lake Towners, should be easy. No. Very scary. And he was lovely. It was another wonderful game. I was really happy with it, but I got a win. I was on 4 wins. Madness. And that game was on table 2. So at the end of game 4 of the GT, I'm on table 2 on 4 wins. And, you know, you still don't think, it sounds so stupid, you still don't think you're going to win. But equally, I'm not going to lie, at that point I was like, well, I've won 4 with these armies. Who knows? So we head off to lunch, and honestly, the tables around me was a shark tank. There were some great players with scary looking armies, and I was like, you know, I was still, however high up I was still there for the fun and just wanting to be chilled out and have a laugh. And I remember having lunch with Jay Acharya, who had just won against Camille, and us saying to it, and he was on 4 wins, and I was saying, look, if I could pick anyone, I'd pick you. Like, of all the kind of like scary armies on there, at least I know that me and you would have a laugh a bit, because I've played Jay a lot of times over the years, and it's a little less scary than fighting like all Black Riders or something. And then bizarrely, we kind of came back round and we got drawn against each other. So I stayed on table 2, and I got played against Jay. Now Jay is an amazing player, and he's really going for it this year. He got a 2nd at Ardacon last year, and I think he's got some other really good results since then as well, I think. But so he was making no bones about it. He was like, yeah, I'm here to win, I'm here to compete, I'm here to do really, you know, try and do really well. And he brought an army to go with that, and it was Lake Town again. It was the Master of Lake Town, Alfred, and a bunch of Lake Town Guard, I think, and Braga probably. And then Glorfindel as his leader, and like 5 Rivendell Knights and Círdan. And we had Lords of Battle. And I got to say, when I got drawn against that, I was like, I might have a hope here. Of all the scenarios where my fairly crappy army of Gothmog could match up against this, I might have a chance. But what was really interesting was Jay thought I had it in the bag. And Jay was very much kind of, well, I've got, you know, the kind of response that I had when I was playing Louis, where it's like, I've got men, you're going to rip me apart. But so he was kind of scared of me and I was scared of him, which was interesting. But he deployed miles away. He deployed on the back edge, which I thought, I was like, all right, well, that suits me because I'll just fire my catapult at you for the next 2 hours. And I was like, and I think I'll win. And then he unveiled his what was it, the secret weapon, his master stroke, which was Círdan. So he turned Círdan on, so he had blind and light. And I was like, all right, I will still fire my catapult at you, and I will hope for a 6 followed by a 6. Then he put Aura of Command up with Círdan, which stopped. I had severed heads. I was like, I'll fire severed heads. And then the Lake Towners will leg it, and that made them pass all the courage tests. And then he put Terrifying Aura up, so that they all his models caused terror, so that my crappy little orcs wouldn't be able to fire at them. And so, I mean, Círdan was literally the MVP for to play my army with. He was just amazing, and he protected him against everything. But we still did this. So basically, I would move an orc forward to see some part of Jay's army. There was a massive mountain or something in the middle, like a ruin, a huge ruin, Dol Guldur ruin, I think it was, that was blocking line of sight. I'd move an orc forward. I'd fire my catapult, and I've got to say, it's very fair that I hit a lot. I got the 6 to hit a lot. I think he used a might, my siege engineer's might, to do it once. Just bet big. Was what else you're going to use it for on that. But it always scattered. And so basically for this game, I am just hoping for a double 6. Well, there's a lot to hope for, but I'm like, if I just get the hit, and then I just get the direct hit, it's Lords of Battle. Not that I win, but I am then, I'll kill about 8 or something, the way he had this tightly packed Lake Town Guard, and suddenly Jay's then chasing the game. And it just wouldn't happen. I'd hit, and I got through to blind the light a lot, but then the scatter would always go out onto one of the guys that Jay had put miles away, so I'd kill one guy, and then Jay would shoot at the orc I'd moved up to spot him and kill him. And so we were almost every turn, we were just exchanging. It was, the first hour was like, just exchanging kills gradually. And it might sound like I don't know, gamey or non-fun, but it was great. It was really, really good fun. It was really tactical. It was great. Jay was lovely, and we both seemed terrified of the other one's armies and convinced the other person was going to win, which was really interesting. And we just had the best time. And then gradually, Jay starts advancing up the table, and then I took the punt at one point. And I had, the priority comes around. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to have to go for him, and I charged in to try and get my troll in. Got the troll courage test passed. We got into some guys where he could cause some damage, but I'd planned on blocking his route, Glorfindel's route to him, with all my other orcs, and they all failed the courage test, so they couldn't move in. And there was definitely a misplay on my part there, where I was counting on at least one of them getting in to block Glorfindel's route, because none of them got in. I could have moved one of them up, which is what I should have done. So I made a mistake, which allowed Glorfindel to get into the troll, and he killed the troll. And that then meant I was chasing the game, basically, and I'd lost my big fight 7 thing, so it was all very sad for me. But then I think I'm right in saying Jay then dropped back. He had the VP advantage, and he largely dropped back. Glorfindel was out of might, and if you imagine this big ruin in the middle of the table, Jay's army is here, and Gothmog is my only art. I've sent Gothmog out to kill people because he's the only model I could count on passing the courage test to charge. And Gothmog has just gone running through into enemy territory, trying to get me back in it. And on the last turn of the game, I've never known anything like it. After 2 hours of playing, and lots of turns, we both had pretty much a whole army still. And there were 3 events. There were 3 events in the final turn that all could decide the game, and nothing else. Normally, if you've got armies left, they're all fighting. There were just 3 things that happened in the whole turn. And one was I fired my catapult. 2 was that Gothmog was trapped by a bunch of elves. And the 3rd one was that Glorfindel, with no might, was trapped by a bunch of my orcs. Because Kurden had run away by that point, so I didn't need the courage test, I think. And so I had, I want to say, 8 orcs on Glorfindel who had no might. And so we were in this situation where these 3 things were going to happen. And if the catapult hit was one of them, if Gothmog died was one of them, and if Glorfindel died was the other one. And basically whoever won 2 out of those 3 would win the game. So first things first, Hail Mary shot from the catapult, and it misses. So I was like, as a J, raised a huge sigh of relief. I think I'm something like 4 kills behind at this point, or something like that. And Jay breathes a huge sigh of relief, so the catapult doesn't hit. In the fight with Gothmog, in his last might point, he calls a heroic strike, so he's higher fight. And he, I think this was the only turn I've done the Time of the Orc is now or whatever. And, or the Age of Men is over, whichever one gives them the rerolls. And I got the 6, so Gothmog won the fight, and he killed 2 guys or something. So I feel like I was 1 kill behind, and it all came down to this Glorfindel fight. Now, look, let's make no mistake about it, Glorfindel's likely to win this. I think he had charged. So I think he had 4 attacks, and he had Lord of the West. So he had 5 dice, but he didn't have any might, and I had about 8. And do you know what? I thought I was going to win it. For whatever reason. I just had that feeling, I was like, he's not going to get 6. So Jay chucks his dice, and he gets the 6. So Glorfindel wins, and I lose. I can't remember what he killed, 2 orcs or something. So Jay wins by about 3 or 4 kills. But it was just amazing to think that, you know, as unlikely as he was not to get a 6 in that, if he had, and then I'd got one, I suddenly then had 16 strikes against him, re-rolling all failed wounds, and I was like, I'll probably do him. And it was quite remarkable. It was quite remarkable to have these 3 events turn the game. But sadly for me, Jay got the catapult one and the Glorfund one, and I got the Gothmog one. So yeah, Jay won. But it was amazing. It was a brilliant game. I loved it, and I was kind of genuinely really proud of myself to, you know, it's that kind of, I've really pushed one of the best players in the country at the moment as far as it goes in the penultimate game of the GT with an army that I just picked without practicing. You know, I just took the Legion, took it for the models because it was thematically opposed, and I was just really quite chuffed with the result. And again, most importantly, just had the best game. Just had a lovely, lovely game, and Jay was just amazing, great opponent. Played in what I would describe as what you'd hope for, certainly, but remarkably good, light-hearted spirits, considering it was the final game of a GT, penultimate game of GT. So there we go. So I did get my first loss, but it wasn't with my BSIME Gondor. And so for the final game, I dropped down to table 5, I think, and played Clayton White. So we knew we couldn't win. Neither of us could win the tournament at this point. So there's no pressure on this game. There's no, there's no kind of chasing the dragon or thinking, oh, maybe I could get one of those shiny trophies this time. All the kind of pressure's off, and you can just relax and enjoy your final game. And he had the host of the Dragon Emperor, and I was like, come on. I was like, what a reward that is for the final game against my. So I've got a completely fluffy, very subpar Gondor army, and he's got, again, one of the most effective armies in the game. And the last scenario is Recon. And I thought, oh, actually, Recon is one of the few scenarios here that I'd have a chance at. And so I just went with the classic thing where I was like, I'm not going to beat your army, but I could win the scenario. And he had some runners. I think he had Acolytes on this side and a few, what are they called, Cataphracts, I think, on this side. And then he had the Dragon Emperor of all the guys in the front. And I put my Knights on the side, a couple of Knights on either side, I think. Or maybe all my Knights are on here, and I sent some Rangers up here. And I put all my Warriors in the middle to charge into Dragon Emperor and die. It was just that kind of, I'm going to send Faramir off here, because Faramir and the Knights should beat a few Warriors and run off the board and get me my VPs. And hope to die in the middle and win on VPs, basically. And it went really well. It was going really, really well. I was pleased with the plan. I kind of charged into the middle, made a long battle line that kind of trapped the Dragon Emperor. Boromir didn't do very well actually in that game. I feel like he kept getting neutered. But over here on the flank, I killed Faramir. Did the work. Faramir and his knights kind of cleared out here, and I managed to get 2 off. And over here, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was only 1 off this side. And I feel like over here I did get a couple of knights off here as well, I think. But I managed to get 2 off. I think 1 on each side. And so I was up on VPs, and I think if the game had ended the turn before it did, I would have won on VPs, I'm pretty sure. And then on the turn that it did end, Clayton was able to get some guys onto Denethor, who was my leader for the first time in the tournament. Actually, I think guys onto Denethor, who's my leader, when I had 1 more knight on the edge of the board, and Denethor was also the model that would 25% me, and he killed him. I think he needed to. Denethor got the 6 in the fight, but he had the higher fight value, so he needed a 6, and he rolled and he didn't get it. But one of the dice was, luckily for Clayton, one of the dice was cocked, so he got a reroll. So he rerolled that, got the 6, and killed Denethor, which got him the points for my leader and 25%ed me. So that turned it into a draw. However that works, I think I got 5 VPs for having twice as many guys off, and he breaks me and kills my leader and gets 5, I think. But it was a draw. It was 5. Well, as I said, the turn before, I think I'm winning 5-3, and the turn after I get another knight off, and it's 7-5 or whatever it be. But such is life. I got 25%ed, and so it ended in a draw. Which was cool. It was like, you sort of feel like, I could feel the win there. I could feel the win there, but got a draw, which was cool. So my BSIME Gondor went undefeated for the tournament, which I was just amazed by. So that was cool. I was really proud of them, and yeah, I was chuffed with coming out of that. So that was that. That was the GT. It was amazing, and I ended up with 4 wins, a loss, and a draw, which was wildly beyond my wildest dreams. I think if you'd have offered me 3 wins at the start, I would have thought that was unlikely. It would have bitten your hand off. So yeah, getting 4 wins, a loss, and a draw was amazing. And we all gathered round, and I suppose not amazed when you then see those results. You know, you're roughly in contention, but I was really, really genuinely chuffed to have come 12th overall, and I was just like, that's awesome. 12th overall at essentially the most competitive event of the year. It is just amazing given the armies I took and the approach I took to it and the approach I take to my gaming now. So that was cool. And if I had have won that game, which as I said is like literally the last one, I didn't, but it's always nice to look. If I had won that game, I would have come 5th overall, which is just mind blowing. So yeah, it's kind of mad to think I certainly put myself in a position to come 5th at the GT. But yeah, I managed to get 12th overall, and I think certainly more importantly than that, I won Most Sporting Player, which I was just absolutely amazed by. Most Sporting Player, you get to vote at the GT. You get to vote for 2, so you get to vote for your 2 most sporting opponents, which I think is a really nice idea because it makes the decision a little easier. And they don't at the GT. They don't tell you how many votes you got. So I might have got 6, or I might have got 1. But they give it to the person who got the most. It was clear that it was a tie, and I got it because I finished the highest of the people who tied. So let's say it was 4 votes. If I got 4 favourite game votes, I was the highest in the rankings to come 4th. I think the rationale behind that is the idea that if you finish better, I don't know how to put this. You're more likely to give your favourite game opponents to people who you beat than beat you. So it means that you've beaten people in a nice way, I suppose, is the argument for that. And I was so chuffed with this. What I'm delighted about recording this 6 weeks after the fact is I truly can't remember. I had 5 amazing games against 5, and I was really like, it could have gone to any kind of 5 lovely people that I was just like, I was really torn, and I truly can't remember who I decided on in the end. I feel like it was the Mundins. I feel like just for these lovely games that started things, but it could have been anyone. Like I was really torn because I had such great games across the weekend, and so yeah, winning that, like finishing that high up the rankings and winning Most Sporting Player while I was doing so, I was like, this is cool. That's what I've come here with the right attitude. I've done well, and I've got Most Sporting Player as well. So massive double thumbs up from me. So thank you to whether it was 1 of you or whether it was 6 of you, to my opponents out there. Thank you for the votes. It's really lovely, and it really meant the world to me and really made my weekend. So that was that. It was brilliant. Highly recommend it. Love the GT as ever. Headed off to the Beefeater with about 10 of us to have a bit of a debrief and catch up with some people, which was lovely. I can't remember the winners. I know Jay Achara was playing it out against Ed on the top table, and he just came up short, which as is so unfair in these things, he then dropped down out of the rankings. But congratulations to Ed Ball, my lovely friend Ed, for winning the GT. He did amazingly well as ever. And sorry, I just can't remember who else was in the top 3 and who else finished and all that, but I know that Ed won it. It was richly deserved. So yeah, it was amazing. It was a brilliant weekend, and there we go. That was the GT. So my BSIME Gondor army is undefeated at the highest competitive level, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, they have seen their first taste of the tabletop. You're going to be seeing a lot more of them in events this year. But it was cool. It was great to see this army that has grown up on this channel gradually go to war, and it was tons and tons of fun. I used the evil stuff as well. You know, I've got to say that, but the evil games felt quite annoying to me. I was like, I don't want to use these. I just want to use my Gondor. So yeah, it was brilliant. It was great to get them used, and I'm excited to do more of it. So there we go. This has been longer than I thought it was going to be. I think this last segment's been about 45 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed that, and it will make this quite a chunky vlog in the end. But there we go. As I said, it was 6 weeks ago. I have fallen way behind on my hobby vlogging. I'm sorry. It's been probably the best part of 2 months, I think, since my last hobby vlog, if not longer. But fear not. This is the start of a flood. I am currently working on 4 different hobby vlogs, the next 4. So the trouble for me now is actually going to be finding the time to keep up, basically. But I would hope that you'll be getting a fair few hobby vlogs over the next few weeks, dropping as I kind of catch up with everything I've done over the last few weeks. But yeah, it's great to be back. I'm sorry this one's taken so long, and I hope you enjoyed it. But there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. Look down the GT and the road to the GT. If you are new here and you've lasted this long, please click the subscribe button. It really helps us. And we do have an affiliate link down there for our friends at 7 Seat Collectibles. So if you are looking to get any hobby goodness, if you pick it up through them, not only do you support a local business, not only do you get a discount, but you help the channel out as well. And finally, should you be so inclined, we have our Patreon link down there. You can join our amazing Patreon community of over 100 people who hang out with each other in our little Patreon chat and get some cool BSIME merch. And most importantly, whether you join any of those things, come and see us, come and see me and Steve on the next live stream on Battle Streams of Middle-earth, which will be within a week or 2 of you seeing this at some point. We can't wait to see you there. But until next time, that's all for now, here on Battle Streams in Middle-earth.